Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the channel. I didn't even realize that much time had gone past, but here we are. We're here. We're here. We're here. We're here. Welcome again. This is the GOAT TV. Welcome to another episode of the GOAT TV. Nightly news, daily news at 10 at 10. Again, it's the weekend, so we're a little bit behind schedule, but nonetheless, we're here. So thank you all for joining the channel tonight, the daily news. You missed if you weren't on at 9 or 8 o'clock, you missed a very good conversation with Kenneth Dean from Let's Talk Law Enforcement. Kenneth Dean is a current law enforcement officer in Baltimore, Maryland, in a very tough police precinct that he works in, or police unit that he works in. I've known Kenny for 30 years, nearly 30 years, and the brother still is in shape. He still looks young. He's still patrolling the streets and doing what he loves, protecting the community, mentoring young police officers, and the like. And so, you guys, if you missed that conversation with Kenneth Dean and Let's Talk Law Enforcement, make sure you get to my YouTube channel, like, share, subscribe, and comment. But more importantly, watch that video. It's on the rise of police shootings and the use of force incidents. And we didn't really get into it because I thought Kenneth Dean was off today. But nonetheless, Kenneth Dean was not off work. He was actually on duty in uniform in his vehicle. And he said that his chief allows him to do things like that because the chief wants to educate the community about law enforcement and the life of law enforcement officers and what it's like to be an law enforcement officer and the things that they have to deal with and how they actually deal with them. So that was good to have him on, and actually to have him on in uniform and for us to talk about the things that we talked about. More importantly, police shootings. And I've been involved in quite a few in my career. Many people thought it was a badge of honor to be in a police shooting. And nonetheless, I was in so many, and that you could never tell people who idolized you that you were actually struggling, or I was actually struggling from the effects of the police shooting. So many things that goes on through a police officer's mind before, during, and after a shooting. And some of the things that I dealt with immediately is, so, well, is the person unalive? Did this person die? Were my shots accurate? I'm thinking, okay, now after you think that, am I safe wherever I am? Are there different assailants, or there's somebody who doesn't like what I did and now will retaliate on me? So you're really hyper vigilant in that environment. And then thirdly, but probably most importantly, is like, is my ass going to jail? That is like a very viable question to be asking yourself after a police shooting, because a lot of people don't know that when you're a police officer, you are charged with homicide. Yet you guys didn't know that. It's still a crime. It's still a crime. It's a crime, but it's a justified crime. But on the book of law, it's a crime. And somebody has to be held responsible or accountable for that crime. Now, the issue is if it's justified or unjustified. And that's the part where you go through an investigation, internal affairs comes, the use of force team comes, the homicide unit comes. And just like in any crime, they canvass the scene, they talk to witnesses, they look for evidence, they recover weapons, if any, they take statements, and they take you downtown in a police car, relieve you of your firearm, and they take, well, because it's part of the evidence, but they relieve you of your firearm. They put you in the back of a patrol car or a detective car, and they take you to police headquarters where you can be questioned. And I'm not going to say are questioned, because in the law enforcement, as an officer, you have the right, just like everybody else. You're still an American citizen, so you still have your constitutional rights to take your Fifth Amendment, which is the right to not incriminate yourself. So anything said can and will, remember that, be used against you. So you are actually charged with a crime. And then what you have to wait for is the case to be investigated by the powers to be, the people in your agency, and then that investigation to go to the United States Attorney's Office for further review. And the United States Attorney's Office will decide if it's justified or not non-justified. And if it is, if they rule it as justified, then you are compelled at that time to give a statement of facts regarding that. So your Fifth Amendment no longer is a thing of stress for you, or a thing that you have to worry about. Whatever you say at this point won't get you in jail. So, but before you start to give that statement, they will give you what is called a letter of declination. And the letter of declination means that they have declined to prosecute. So nothing that you say from that point on can get you into criminal trouble. It will just be a matter of administrative investigation from there, or procedures from there. So I was involved in 7 shootouts during my career. I've been shot one time. I had some friendly fire. Another time I've been stabbed. And I had 2 fatalities during my career as a police officer. That's how I was able to retire at the age of 35. So, moving forward, having Kenneth Dean on today, and he was also involved in police shootings that him or I think I talked about my shooting, one of the fatal shootings at the end of my live on YouTube earlier at the 8 o'clock live. But, I'm not going to talk about that on this particular live, because that's not what this is about. But Kenneth Dean didn't talk about his much, but it also has an impact on you. And a lot of people believe that police officers are just shooting people and then going to lunch and, coming back to shift later for overtime, but it doesn't work like that. Again, when you're involved in a shooting, there's an investigation done. Now we didn't have body cams when I was a police officer, but now they have body cams. So they're taking the body cams, they're talking to witnesses, they're canvassing scene, picking up shell casings, recovering any weapons from the person that you were the other person on the other side of the police shooting. Doing all of that stuff, going to the medical examiner's office, all of that good stuff. That's a part of the investigation. But also there's a part where people believe that police officers are superhuman, and that you just, again, show back up to work the next day like it's Hill Street Blues or NYPD Blues or whatever these shows that come on, where people get in these shootouts and then come back to work like nothing ever happened. I did explain on my other video, I was involved in a shooting, I think it was one of the last shootings I was involved in. The family sued the department, and as part of the lawsuit, the general counsel asked me, did I mind speaking to the young man's father? And I said, sure, I don't mind speaking to him. One, because I wanted his father to have closure, because my son, who was at the time 3 years old, was in the car with me, along with my younger brother. They were in the car with me when the shooting happened. So, I know what it is like to have a son. And I was thinking about my son the whole time during the incident and after the incident. And to just love my children the way that I do, to feel the pain of a man who lost his son based on something that I did, which I was well within my rights to do, but I still did. And so I felt that his father needed closure, that if he just heard from me, my side of the story, that he would have comfort in knowing that it wasn't all in vain. Okay. So, because just as in anything, everybody had statements. They said the young man had his hands in the air and he was submitting, and I was just some kind of wild cowboy, Billy the Kid, Wyatt Earp type dude, and just start unleashing on him. But that's not what happened. That's not what happened at all. And without really going into this, I'll talk about it a little bit, but you can go back and watch the live that I did at 8 o'clock. It's on my YouTube channel now. But what happened was the young man had a BB gun. I didn't know it was a BB gun. These days, you can't tell a BB gun from a real one. You can't tell airsoft guns from a real one. When we train at the MVP School of Executive Protection, we train with airsoft guns and their Glocks. And if it wasn't for the orange tip on there on the front of the gun, you wouldn't know if it was a real Glock or not. Even if you held it in your hand, you wouldn't know it was a real Glock until we told you it wasn't a real Glock. So BB guns have come a long way from when I was a kid. But this shooting, this firearm that this young man had looked very real. And people say, well, you could have waited, you could have did this, you could have shot him in the leg, shoot him in the hand, shoot him in the arm. Well, police officers aren't assassins. They don't teach you how to be assassins, or I only say sharpshooters, right? You shoot a basic police tactical course, and a lot of those officers, even training is very good these days, but a lot of officers fail. And you go to the firearm, your requalification twice a year. But as I said in the last live, why go twice a year when your life counts on it every day? Every day you don that bulletproof vest and you snap on that duty belt, put on that badge on your shirt, put that hat on if you're required to, and you get in your patrol car and patrol the streets. But before you do that, you look at your kids and your mom, your wife, your husband, and you kiss them, tell them how much you love them, and you walk out that door. There's a very high chance, depending on where you work at, that you may never walk back through that door again. And so just taking all of that into consideration, there's a lot that goes through that. So like I was saying, I wanted that young man's father to have closure. And I did. And I sat in there, and what I thought was going to happen, the U.S. attorney asked me, did I want him to stay? I said, no. And it's two men talking. I was very young. I only think I probably was 20, 26, 27, something like that. So it's been quite a while. It's been almost 30 years, I think. So, but nonetheless, when that happened, when it happened, I sat in that room with that man and thought I was going to get closure and he was going to get closure. And that man ripped me from the feet to the head for about 10 minutes straight, just yelling at me, telling me how bad of a person I was, that I shot his son down like a dog in the street. And I never even got to tell him, man, hey, I'm a father. I'm here. I'm human. I was doing my job. He had a gun at night to a lady's head. I couldn't decipher if it was real or if it was fake. But if I waited too late, I may have been the person on the other side of the tape. And my father could be in this room, or my mother could be in this room, or they could be delivering a flag or bad news on their doorstep. Your son ain't never coming home. Your husband ain't never coming home. Your daddy not ever coming home. And they got a picture of me on a fireplace somewhere. How great of a police officer I was, that I sacrificed my life for a community. As a person goes on and they serve about 10 or 15 years, maybe 20 years in jail and get to go on and live their lives. So, that wasn't the case for me. Fortunate that I was on the right side of the law that day, and I was on the right side with God that day. And all of the things they do when you have police shootings, people will talk about what the law enforcement officers did wrong and Monday morning quarterback. But until you walk in those shoes, you'll never know. You'll never know that I cried when that man left out of that room, that I cried for about 10 minutes uncontrollably because I never got off my piece. I never got to hug him and show him what kind of man I was, or shake his hand and have a genuine conversation with him and tell him about my sleepless nights and how often I think about his son. I never did. I never got that closure, but he got his off. So, and also, and I don't know, you guys, even in security, there may be a chance where you have PTSD. That's why I was able to retire so soon at the age of 35. After 7 shootouts, being shot, stabbed, ran over, that there was an insurmountable amount of stress. Nights that I didn't sleep. Nights that I pretty much just attack my family members in the sleep because I'm having nightmares and I'm thinking, I wake up and have my ex-wife in the chokehold. She's saying, I'm your wife, I'm your wife. Because I had PTSD. I'm dreaming that I'm in a shootout. And as soon as I pull my gun out, all the bullets fall out and the gun fall apart. I have dreams that I'm shooting and the gun is just click, 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 click. And every day you go out on the street, you're wondering if today is your day. But you're just trying to protect the community. So, that's what I had to deal with. And not only myself, but a lot of police officers deal with that. And the fortunate thing when you're in law enforcement, they have what you call employment, was employee EAP, Employee Assistance Program, where you can go and talk to somebody. If you're struggling with PTSD and you're a law enforcement officer or you're a security officer, you don't have to actually use force. Some of the things that you see in this profession, even fire department people burned 3rd degrees, people shot with shotguns in the face, people shot multiple times, little children assaulted, little kids shot while playing on the playground. These are the kind of things you see as a law enforcement officer, and you see it day in and day out. But most people don't say anything about it because you're supposed to be the hero. If you say you're having all of these nightmares, you can't sleep, you have anxiety when you go out on patrol, then they call you weak. In my time, I was a hero. And it was weird that everybody wanted to ride in the car with me because they knew if they rode in the car with me, it was going to be an adventure. And that's just kind of one of the things. You had some guys, man. We had some guys in my era in the police department where there were a lot of police shootings. And every last one of those guys were heroes. But every last one of them guys were suffering in the dark when nobody knew about it. And we wanted to come to work and not have nobody want to call us a hero or talk about the shootings that we were in. Well, I went to the employee assistance program, and that was one of the best things that ever happened to me. And without that, if we didn't have that, I don't know how I would have functioned as a police officer. And then outside of that, as a man. But I have to tell you that PTSD isn't all of that bad. And if you know how to use it. So everything has it's a yin yang. It's a positive and it's a negative to it. Well, it made me hyper vigilant. So when I left the police department and kind of figured out whatever my life was going to be, what I was going to do next, when I started doing close protection work or executive protection work for high profile people, this was perfect. PTSD was no longer a curse. It was a blessing because I see everything. I see everything. And that's important when you're an executive protection agent. The ability to see things. I ain't gonna say everything because everybody can't see everything, but I actually see everything. We were in Chelsea, New York, on the Chelsea board, what you call it, the boardwalks, Chelsea, whatever you call them damn things. It's not boardwalks, but I can't think of what. Anyway, Chelsea Riverwalk in Chelsea, New York. So myself, Devin Henry, one of my students in my New York executive protection class, we after one night after the last day of class, I was staying down in Chelsea, and Devin wanted to talk to me about some business stuff. So I said, for sure. Yeah, come down here at the Chelsea, what do you call it? The Chelsea docks. That's what they call it, the docks, I believe. I'm down here at the Chelsea docks. I'm gonna have, maybe a whiskey or something, a couple slices of pizza. I'm down here at the a Lucky Strike. Come on down, we hang out. So we're down there and we're talking, and it gets kind of late. So all right, man, let's break camp. So we start walking, and as we walk out of the docks, I see 2 young girls, white tennis, blue and white Jordans. I don't even know. I never owned a pair of Jordans, but I know them when I see them, the blue and white ones, the Carolina blue and white ones. They had them on. They were both dressed almost alike. One Caucasian, one white girl, and one black girl. They were about 16, 17. And they were standing there on their phones, and they're going through their phones. And I'm like, wow, it's like 1 o'clock in the morning, 12:30, 1 o'clock. Why are these young girls standing out here on Chelsea Riverwalk at the docks at this time of night. Like they're on their phones. And just as soon as I said that, a guy walks through. He walks through the breezeway. He comes out and he goes over to the young girls and he talks to them. And the young girls were on their phone. They put their phones away immediately. And then he walked off. So I said, oh, I see. There's a little human trafficking going on right here. Some young girls out here, you know. And so Devin and I, we walked off. He got to his car. We drove to a restaurant. The restaurant must have been 20 blocks away. It had to be at least 20 blocks away. At least 20 blocks. I would say 10 to 20, 15 to 20 blocks away. So we go, only restaurant that's open, one of the only restaurants that's open. We sit down at the bar. We order some food. Devin doesn't drink. I don't even think I drank that night. But we sat down. We sat down and we started talking. And as we were there for about maybe 45 minutes or so, an hour, and we left out. As we was leaving out, a guy was walking in. And as we got outside, got to the door, I said, that's the guy that was down in Chelsea. And he looked. Devin looked at him, and I looked at him. He said, how do you know? I said, remember his face. But more importantly, I remembered his shirt that he had on. He had the number 39 on the back of his jersey. And then when I said that, Devin looked at him. He said, you're right. I said, I know, because I see everything. And it was just ironic that that guy was there 20 blocks away. And he could have went anywhere. But for me to just pick up on that, one, what I saw with the young girls that just were out of place. Two, I saw him talking to them, which really made him and them out of place. And that made me focus more on his features, what he was wearing, his mannerism and everything. And so when I saw him at this location 20 blocks later, you know, I knew immediately that it was him. So just doing that, if you ever see me at work when I'm doing executive protection, I'm on it, right? So I teach my students, watch faces, watch hands. And I mean, you should do, that's a common thing in law enforcement too. Watch the faces, watch the hands. But people always say I look serious. You know, I'm for me, when I'm at work, it's a business trip. It ain't no need to be smiling, but I'm professional. When people come up, I undress them with my eyes. I let them know that I'm keen and alert. A lot of people say, well, you know, I like to wear sunglasses because people don't know where you're looking. I tell people, I want people to know exactly what I'm looking at so that they know that I'm on point. And it ain't no trying it when I'm protecting somebody. Because when I'm protecting somebody, remember, I'm hypervigilant, PTSD. I'm not only protecting them, I'm protecting myself. And they're being protected as a result of me protecting myself. Because I want to go home at the end of the night. I got people waiting for me. I have grandchildren that love me, a mother, father who's still living that I want to see. I still have places that I want to travel around the world, things that I want to do. I plan on being here for a long time. And when I go, it's not going to be at the hands of somebody else. Not unless it's Dr. Jack Kevorkian and he's already dead. So being in law enforcement and having PTSD has really helped me. But if you're struggling and suffering from PTSD, don't do it alone. And there's a way for you not to have to do it at all. Find out where your local therapist is. If you don't have one, you have a small department who doesn't pay for that. Get yourself some therapeutic help. Get yourself a qualified therapist. If not, your department has an employee assistance program. Most of the departments, if you're involved in the shooting, it's not even, it's mandatory. It's not negotiable. You go. And you think you go for at least 6 sessions or something like that. That's what it was when I was in there. 6 weeks, 6 sessions, like 6 weeks. And you can go as often as you want. Shoot, a lot of times me and my partners that were involved in some of the shootings and some of the guys, because it became a family, because it was only people who understood you because they had been through the same thing that you went through. So we would go just to go because we worked in the 7th district, southeast side of town. We would go because the employee assistant program was downtown Washington, D.C. They had all the best hotels, the restaurants, prettiest girls. So every day they would have to allow, I mean, every time, once a week or twice a week, or how often you wanted to go, they would have to allow you to go. Downtown in southeast, the 7th district where I worked at, we didn't have no hotels. And the only restaurants we had were carry-out restaurants, Chinese food stores. You get some chicken wings and mambo sauce, shrimp fried rice or something like that, some heart attack food. And then you had McDonald's, Taco Bell, Burger King, KFC. That's all you had. A couple of mom and pop stores. You run in and get yourself a steak and cheese sandwich or something like that. So to get out of the 7th district and go to the 1st or 2nd district or somewhere like that, we loved that. They had hotels that fed you for free. All you had to do was show up in uniform. So we would go to the thing, eat free food, see our friends, talk about, our experiences, and that was a way for us to relieve ourselves. So again, if your department has an employee assistance program, make sure that you talk to them. Don't live with PTSD alone. A lot of us have suffered from it. And again, it could be a good thing if used in the right way. And if you need I'll say this, any help on talking through stuff like that, whether you're a security officer, law enforcement officer, whatever you do, feel free to reach out to me. Instagram, Discord, Facebook. Just send me a message, and I'll help you as best as I can through it. But don't do it by yourself. So for today's show, it's going to be shorter, I believe, than normal. A couple of things I want to talk about that I've been talking about for a while now. One is the Minnesota lawmaker shootings, or assassinations and shootings. And when I say lawmakers, for you all who don't know, that's the congressmen and the congressman, the Speaker of the House, and the a Minnesota Speaker of the House, the Capitol there, and her husband. So Melissa Horton and Mark Hortman, who were gunned down by Vance Boelter in a calculated hit on politicians. So political homicides have been going on. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but before, I got to put these glasses on because I got older eyes now, and I ain't going to say old eyes, but I have older eyes. So I want to thank Isaac Howe for being on Facebook, Mike Sullivan, thank you, sir, for being on. And you guys, thank you. I appreciate the comments and appreciation for my service. I loved law enforcement. Trust me, I did. I really did. There are some great things that could have been done. My time just timed out. If the circumstances were right, I would have stayed there. I would have made history. I had already made history on the police department. And those who know my story know what history I did. I could just tell you this. If they wrote a book about the Metropolitan Police Department, MPDC, they could not write that book without putting my name in it. They could not write the book without putting my name in it. So those who know already know. I could tell you when I retired, I was 35 years old as a police captain. And I was a police captain for 5 years at that time. So that'll let you know a little bit about why they had to put my name in the book. So today, talking about police, we'll move on to the Minnesota assassin. His name was Vance Boelter. He was an evangelical priest or preacher or something like that. He was also the director of a security firm, a father. I believe he was also a husband. But I know for sure he was a father because in his letter, one of his letters, I don't know if he thought he was going to die, but his letter to his children, he said, "Daddy went to war today. You'll probably read about it or see it on the news, but I went to war today." So again, Vance Boelter was a evangelical person, pastor or something like that. He preached, but he went on a rampage in June. He murdered 2 politicians, the Speaker of the House and his wife. Well, his wife was actually the Speaker of the House of Minnesota, Melissa Hortman, and then her husband, Mark Hortman. He murdered them in front of two police officers who did absolutely nothing, according to the reports. And I'll say allegedly because the Brooklyn Police Department, Brooklyn Park in Minnesota, they probably have more money than me, I'm sure, and I don't want to be sued, so I'm going to say allegedly. But the reports that I read said that they dropped the ball. That's what the report said. It wasn't me that said it. The report said it. So I'll pull up one of those reports right now so you guys can see for yourself. If I can. Maybe I can't. I'll try to find it later. But the report said that they dropped the ball. They dropped the ball and responded. They saw the police officer. They saw Vance Boelter kick in the door, or they saw him with the firearm. They saw him shoot Mark Hortman, and they took over an hour to go into the house to respond. They saw him do it, pulled up. As he was pulling up, he was in the doorway, fired around, killed the man. All right, guys, that was crazy. I don't know what happened. But apparently this live was still going. So I just apologize to you all. I don't know what happened. My screen froze up and I couldn't even unfreeze the screen. So with that said, we were on a roll and it is actually late now. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and end this live. Thank you for whoever just joined. I had a malfunction with the screen. I don't know what happened, but everything just went down. My screen froze. I couldn't move anything. So I'm just getting back to the live, but I think it's best at this point to just go ahead and cancel the live, come back on live on tomorrow. We can pick the story up then. Okay. So thank you guys for even joining. I really appreciate you. Peace.